ships to get a couple more turns in. Get the wars mainly trimmed down during the weekend. Yeah, I had to do some yard work, or I wanted to, and I also cooling down from that. Not overplaying this, because when I overplay it, I'll burn out too much. Whatever. I did some video games. Production for the turn. I don't think we have anything too exciting, although we do have a couple of these CVs showing up here to do mining work. Asia could have jumped in and done better on it, but they're kind of low on money. Japan's not exactly wealthy either. EU, in addition to sending the ship up, is also going to launch a telescope. Why I can't just elevator that telescope, I'm not sure. But everything that launches from Earth, every robotic element has to be thrown up with an LV. So the rule is the rule, so I had to pay a couple extra bucks for an LV that I kind of don't need. Materials boosting to the further reaches, for the most part, by people who feel safe doing so and have the cash to do so. Anyway, on to the movement. The amount of stuff that's flying around the solar system is pretty impressive right now. We got, the Explorers, whatever. But then the war materials moving around, and then hunting pirates and everything is just, the whole board is kind of in play. Not every little planetoid, but almost all of the planets have something going on in them. Uranus is kind of the exception. He still got a warship that I gotta figure out what to do with. The Pakistani, Asian, whatever, CV that landed on Pluto to do exploration, expecting it to be there for a little while. It fatigued on its first roll. Didn't get a depletion. That kind of changes things a little bit, because Japan is going to be able to play out there too. North America, I don't know. They have a ship, but they're involved in war, so they're like trying to produce materials and everything. Those 5 victory points are worth a lot more, but I don't have a base here. Oh no, I do have a base. I don't have it built up yet, although if I made an effort I could have, but I've decided instead to focus the materials from my nether regions on the war effort. And that's what happens when you go to war. You lose out on stuff. That big a deal. The assumption was this was going to get depleted. It was pretty low. The fact that it looks like it may actually get claimed is kind of a surprising thing now. Of course, the EU is probably going to take a shot at it. Those telescopes up there might, not the Japanese one, I would assume, because they're in the game. As to the movement and military, not a whole hell of a lot happening. We're still waiting for fleets to get into place. The Chinese have launched their attack. It's going to arrive at the same time as that big US fleet. We're outnumbered, but we could get lucky. I don't think we can get lucky enough because we don't have the resources, which kind of calls it into question whether we wanted to attack or not. But the game could end very shortly. Getting some victory points off a battle might make the difference here. Otherwise, we're going to have to try to get ourselves out of this war, and recover from the damages we took. And with the ships all in transit, almost nothing happened. Japan actually should have been shooting its telescope at that. I realize they just built their base this turn. That was the exciting thing. And I have a warship I'm allowed to dismantle. Even without a base there. Even without a a dock there, if I recall. Which, again, I can take it either way on that one. And that'll help because the materials, well, no, those materials won't help the tired ship that has to go back home. Well, go back another to Uranus. Not a hell of a lot else happened, to tell you the truth. I mean, even in terms of like base construction and stuff, some settlements here and there, but nothing really exciting at all. This was a remarkably easy and quick turn, although the fact that there's a war going on required a lot more thought than normal at the beginning. For the most part, everything's in transit. And honestly, the people who are defending don't have a lot of options at this point either. And Jihui got shot up somewhere. That's about it. All right, that's it for tonight. I know, just one little bit on the video, but the truth is, I threw a couple of turns in earlier. There were big turns, like 2 hours each, and this one maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So when they're light, they're not too bad. When they're heavy, they're getting there now. And this is the last turn before things might eventually end, conceivably. We get to play out that next turn no matter what, even on the 1% chance. But I mean, there is a 1%, a 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, and you do your probabilities. It's 1% plus 2% of 99%. Plus, you do your combinatorics there, and you see there's a fair chance the game is going to end this turn. Or this decade, somewhere around 5 to 10%, somewhere in that range. But that's going to accumulate quite quickly, and it's very unlikely it's going to go to the very end. But anyway, we have some military things about ready to hit. So the South Americans are coming in on the Russians here. There's another ship being built, being upgraded at the base there. We got the Chinese coming in that direction with the North Americans also there. That's next turn. A little bit of work in terms of mainly getting far external stuff working. So like the North Americans are bringing a bunch of resources way out. At least that's the intent if I remember it. Other people boosting things just to get some extra either settlements or whatever in place. I think we got somebody trying to build up so they can get a ship. I'm trying to remember who that is. South Americans here. We have a ship in the asteroid belt that will be ready to be built next turn. And of course, the North Americans are close to having a ship, so they're just boosting more materials. Nowhere do they actually have one, but they don't have an extra ship, and they think that they're going to win against China. China, of course, still screwed. They have nothing to do. All they have is the hope that this fleet wins them a battle. Maybe I shouldn't have even sent it out, but, I don't know. It provided a threat which I felt the North Americans had to react to, which ends up meaning that Jihui, which is getting decimated anyway, it kind of maybe provides some protection down here. Problem with that, there's a U.S. big warship in Mars, which can be a threat to this, which I believe is undefended. Yep. And to this, which is undefended. So, China's in trouble. Mixed trumping in thing, the EU ends up doing so that they can smack these pirates first. Again, that's just because I'm using the sequence of play kind of, that I'm breaking the sequence of play when I play. Neither of the other powers, China, their warships aren't in place yet, and Asia, they're not really involved in any of this warlike stuff right now. So, yeah. So that was the first Trump in. But yeah, I'm expecting to see Trump in. So for example, Russia, they need to Trump in before South America does. Now, if they did not, so if I wasn't playing with my twisted rules, they wouldn't need to Trump in because they can't search during the trumping. But maybe they want to because the South Americans could leave this box. And the whole key to all of this is I got to get this warship into that box to give me numerical superiority. Otherwise, I would have to allow, or I would maybe allow the South Americans to leave that box without a roll and then chase them to wherever they're going, which is not necessarily in this system. I definitely want to fight though, because there's that South American ship. So yeah, so I would want to get my ships together. It gets a good enough roll that they can evade the combat. I have to stay in that box, but what it means is this ship now will be arriving before the combat, presumably, because again, Russia had its chance to search during its movement phase. That's like again, the way I'm handling things. All right, terrible calamity. This has happened several times, but a die landed here. You know, I mean, yeah, should be rolling in a box. There's not a lot of table space for one, and I don't like doing that anyway. But man, this one's kind of messy. I don't think a box would protect me much, because what happened was I picked up my dice, start rolling them, and it goes flying out the side of my hand. This has been happening a lot to me recently. Quite often they're landing on the floor. Every now and then they hit one of these player aid things or on the board, and it's just horrible. You know, obviously Dice Tower people and everything, yeah, they have the solution for it. I'm not fond of that. I like grabbing the dice and rolling them and then chucking them, and I only use a box, you know, when I have tons of dice to roll. This 3, yeah, I can do this pretty easily, but whatever. So the South Americans just stick around there and don't do anything. I did Japan out of order. They probably didn't want to pass, but they probably wanted to pass, but they ended up taking their turn, whatever. The North America forced to go, and not much to do. I'm waiting on the fleets to gather. Yeah. I actually have some stuff here that I haven't taken care of yet. I wanted to catch the topically interesting fact that they have near their Yosemite, that's why it's topical, base, they've decided to shift over and start trying to produce, I guess that's water, but whatever, supplies. But I don't know what to do with these things. This one, coming from here, I could send it to Jupiter, but it's not going to get there quickly enough. I got a 0.6, so I'm going to actually throw this here, give myself some flexibility with it. Another option would be to schwack the Chinese, but I want flexibility. I'm not worried about that base doing anything for the rest of the decade. And then I have this transfer, which I think is going out to hell. So it's going from Redstone past Yosemite. Redstone is where? Redstone is out here. It's going to be going out to Neptune, which is Independence. So that's a 4-point modifier on the 0.6 table. Gets me there in 2 turns. With a whole pile of goodies. Yeah. I forgot to move these forward. You might have seen that they weren't in place. I got everything else, I think. I don't know. What's going on with this thing? I don't know if I made it. I don't know if I noticed that. I think I missed that one. But I think I got this. Yeah, those were both ships that flew into place. It's kind of hard if you forget to move things, and I think I kind of jumped from here all the way down there, skipping the stuff in the middle that like near Earth. Okay. China's got something kind of interesting. I could actually... I don't think there's any U.S. ships that threaten me near Earth. And I have space elevators, don't I? I do. I could actually shift this over. It's got 5. I can't repair it fully. But yeah. Let's get some of it repaired there in Earth orbit, because the North Americans shifted their ship there before I had to go. So that gives me a little bit of flexibility in terms of, hey, I might have a ship, like, it's not going to be fully restored, but I can get it back to Mars and charge it back up. I won't have the iron to repair it, though. And I guess the only other thing, Asia, heading back out towards Pluto, hoping we get a success, a chance that these guys don't degrade it. If they do, I don't know, at least we can search here, but we could get that big victory point bonus still. Not a whole lot going on in the exploration. A lot, a couple of, EU made a couple of plinks against this, using their telescope even. I forgot to get an extra die with the telescope. Hey, maybe they just killed Pluto. Pluto is physics. Oh, yeah, they killed Pluto. Awesome. But other than that, and they'll get their victory point check for life and everything. We're going to see. We saw. They got both the victory point for the pirate and a couple bucks, and the resources and the victory point from that. So they're actually having a pretty good turn overall, even though they're the furthest behind in terms of bases and are going to have to, push their expansion this turn. Nope, Uranus. They haven't made it to Uranus yet. Figure out what my best option is there. It's probably this base as opposed to this one. It's hard to tell though. Yeah, they're both 6 research, and I would rather get the bio research where we're falling further behind than any of the others. So yeah. Piecework again, all moving towards the external stuff with one, the far end of the solar system with one exception. North America built itself a large spaceport here. Everything working towards victory points and getting an exploration out at this point, except for the one military change, which was building a spaceport there. The reason being, if I can get more materials, I can build a ship there. My spaceport wasn't big enough. I got a big enough spaceport here, but again, I gotta figure out based on, hey, if I lose this battle, that stuff's not useful. But I have a lot more materials sitting out there than my opponent, China. And chances are, whatever happens from that battle. What it looked like it was going to be a big turn this turn, because the Russian-South American battle, which could, cause a follow-up battle or a port attack or something like that. That didn't happen, but next turn is going to be much worse, because now we have the US and China also gathering a huge dual battles in Jupiter. And next turn we start rolling those percentages. All right, but that's it for right now. It's not just China that's out of money now. A number of different players. Ooh. I might have something I wanted to do with Japanese money. I moved that, but I might be launching a single material up or something. But South America tapped out of cash, boosting, their last build materials up to start getting them at their final base built up to something. Russia's still flush with cash. Relatively speaking, there's a little bit of cash on things like Europe. Asia had to rebuild a booster, throwing a little bit up. Europe actually has 2 boosters running. North America running low. Probably can't get more than one more ship out of there. South America built a ship with the materials that they boosted. Others, you know, Asia's running low, like I said. But I am boosting a little bit there. I gotta look at that Japanese, see if there's a one-pointer I want to throw out there. I'll probably try to build that up a little bit. There's a little bit of material I can boost up. Remember, if I get settlements or whatever, those are victory points if the game ends, you know, this decade. Looked at everybody's positioning. Nobody wants to take a priority, so we're starting all the way at the end and working our way straight through. All nice and easy. The thing is, oh wait, no, there's a US warship here that shouldn't be there. Crap, they left one there. Maybe China wants to trump in and fight that. The numbers just, yeah, I think China's going to jump in actually because the US screwed up. I was almost assured there would be a battle with this many ships involved. That puts it up to an 8 and both of them are at -1. So only if they both rolled 10, the 1% chance, would there be no chance of a battle whatsoever. However, the Chinese rolled a 1, the US rolled a 10. That means I can make this direct fire and fire use 4 defensive markers against it. I've taken the drones out. The US and North America had an advantage in drones. I hardly noticed the Canadian flag because it's to the right entirely. So we're looking at 17 to 17, both at +5, brings me to 22 to 22, but 4 defensive markers for the Chinese. A 9-point swing, 1 to make it direct, the other 4 on defense. And what did I say it was? 12, 17, 23 for each. Okay, this didn't work out as well for China. So 25, they're going to do 8 hits. And 31, they do 16, which turns into 12 hits. Ouch. Who gets to choose? The defenders get to choose. Nobody saved points to allocate. And it's, you know, back and forth, but, you know, the receiving, when I say defender, I mean the person receiving the damage gets to choose where the damage goes. So, not sure what that's going to work out like. I'll come back after I do it because it's going to take a little time. It sounded like something fell, but I don't see anything. It may just be the creaking of my body. Okay, so here's how the damage was allocated. The US doesn't want to lose ships, so they took 2 damage on each of their biggest ships and 4 on this one, pretty much knocking that out of line. Chinese felt like they had to destroy a ship, but they also took 2 damage and 5 damage on their Sixers. Okay, but we're not done, because part of this is, did things get retired? So this, let's see, 2 and 3, 4 and 5. So this is going to be worth 2 victory points to the US and 2 engineering chits. I'll pull those chits. And I guess I'll pull the victory points too to remember them. Yeah, we're running low. Who just got them? The US. Let's go 6. We're eating up victory point chits. That's easy enough to resolve somehow or another. Like I could subtract 5 off each player or whatever. I think they all have that many. So now the exciting thing, the die roll-y thing, is these. So let's check the Chinese, who have a 25% crew recall rate. And let's do the important ship first. It survives. Now remember, the North Americans still have that ship there. And now this one has 5 chances. It still has some firepower too. and it fatigues. And that is going to be a biochip for China, which I'll push there. We get the engineering chits. I gave the victory points. So this ship is gone. But now we check the North American ships, and the littlest one takes 4 hits. We'll see what's left. They have only a 20 crew recall. That one recalls, which is fine. It didn't have any firepower left, so it was useless in combat. And we'll give them a check. Ooh. Okay, now these guys take 2 each, and if they're both wiped out, things get kind of interesting, except the North Americans get to go first. That one is. And now the final one. The final one sticks around. So, this has 5 points of capability. This has 4. Plus the North Americans have this additional ship. So they have a stronger fleet overall available now. All right. I think that's all China is doing. And they were the only ones who wanted to jump because this was a close fight, and it looked like they were going to win it off of the tactics, differential, but then the combat differential was approximately equally powerful and in North America's favor, and those 4 hits off did not help. South America is the next power, and they blew up on the launch pad. But since they have another ship coming, they're going to not search. They're also not going to do anything and just hang out there. That means if the Russians get a search that's successful, and they probably will, I mean, it's almost guaranteed, those are huge fleets. But the thing is, if South America gets a 3-point bonus, they can evade the combat and wait another turn for that thing to come up in and give them another ship in their fleet. South America doesn't want to, they're not allowed to attach the incapable of attacking ships. So we're launching our attack here to try to find the 2 Chinese ships. I'm assuming they're going to stick together. That will give us a base die roll is 6. Both are -1. And the Chinese get a 3-point advantage. See, here's the problem. If I don't fight it, this thing's got 5, 8 it can do, and I've got 4. If I don't fight it, it's not like I'm going to be able to recover. So I am going to go for the battle anyway, even though I'm at bad odds, because there's another North American ship coming. This is the best. I'm getting a bonus here where I can choose the distance, which will probably be ranged combat, missile combat, but I can also choose I also get a 1-point either offensive or defensive bonus. Now I'm gonna close in for firing. So anyway, I'm a 4, they're an 8. Both are at +5, so then it becomes 13 to 9. I'm putting a defensive marker on the Chinese, because we saw if we get something like this, it's pretty cool. It's not going to be as big a hit as it was on them, but we're going to do 6, and they're at 15. They're only going to do 4, which is 3. 3 brings this up to a 5. But those are 3 new hits, which could cause retirings. And what did we say? We have 6 hits. They have no defensive bonus. 5 of them will go to killing this. And the 6th one we'll put on that little piece of shit, just because. So I saved this ship. This one is still alive too, and I killed a big 3-point ship, right? No, 2-point ships. 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 6 is 3 points. Okay, so let's check for retirements first. Okay, this one is fine and still here with the rest of the North American ships. They can go gather with them in defense. This one has 5 hits on it. Okay, it retires, which means we get a green token over here, and both Chinese ships are still there. Now, remember, there's another U.S. fleet coming in that can intercept me. But then we also get this, which is going to be 3 victory points for China. And 3 engineering chits for North America. Look at those Chinese victory points. And at least we cost them a ship of some power. But, you know, they have the capability to recover. China does not. There was no good way. There was no good solution here for China, I don't think. Because of the weirdness of the way I do the sequence of play, North America can now leave with their other ships because there's nothing that can intercept them. So one of them went back to the base at Prosperity here, where it can recover, but they both can't recover there. So the other one's heading back to the asteroid belt for refits. Here, Russia managed to win. You know, obviously, they were going to find each other. They managed to win the tactics roll, and they outgun the South Americans. I hope. They certainly outship them. Oh shit, I forgot about the extra damage for additional ships. Well, this is going to apply here with these. I'll remember it this time. Extra die rolls, not damage. Extra die roll values. We're equal in terms of how much missile power we have, which makes this kind of a, you know, hard to call thing. Do I want to cause the most damage? In which case I just go forward and bonsai in, or do I want to... See, I have weaker ships, which means the South Americans can target my ships and start knocking them out. On the other hand, that's if I use missiles. On the other hand, if I come in close, I get to choose where to take the damage, but I probably want to take a lot of it on my little ships, and I kind of don't really mind my little ships being blown up. So I'm going to, since I have a 3-point advantage, I'm going to do a standoff, and we're each going to reduce damage, I think. Well, the Russians certainly are. They're going to reduce their damage by 3, but South America could take 2 of that away from them, or they could reduce their own damage. I have another ship coming in, so I too am going to reduce damage. Okay, and we said we were going to do standoff. So what are our totals here? 7, 14, 18, 22, 26, 29 for Russia versus 9, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 27 for South America. So 29 and 4, and we'll be over here, is on the 34 table. And what was it? 27 and 8 will be on 35. So we're both doing a base of 12 hits. Both are reducing that. So it'll be 9 hits on the Russians and 10 on South America. with the fire getting to choose where they do the damage. Sides went for destroying ships. The South Americans have a chance of losing the effectiveness of a ship, and they are 25%. I think the Russians are like, yeah, the Russians are like 15%, which means doing partial hits, unless you get a lot of them, isn't really that useful. 25, just screwed. Just screwed. Okay. And let's take a look at the actual losses. So these ships are still here and peachy and fine. But these guys, okay, so this is worth 1, 2, 3, 4 victory points for the Russians. And that means 4 engineering chips for South America. Not really worried about the points. Okay. And what does South America get? Same deal. 4 victory points and 4 chits for Russia. Don't continue with rounds of battle or anything like that. It's just 1 firing round and you're done. And that's kind of like WIF, I think, if I recall correctly, as opposed to a World at War, where you can just keep pressing someone in the naval battle. I think that's it for, wow. We actually have a North American on China. Yeah, I got that one. Okay. I think that's it for the Russian ships and for their movement turn, which means the EU, which has lots of shit to go moving around because they have a couple warships here, an asteroid explorer there, etc. And still nobody's dealing with this. There are a couple of countries that could. They just haven't been. Or any Gal Trader fans, hey, can somebody hold open the war zone so I can get the materials there? Okay, it's not really, it doesn't apply here at all. It would be kind of cool if, like, you know, again, lots and lots more complexity here. But if you were blockading an area, trying to slip through that blockade, the resources coming through would be more valuable to the area. But again, the trade system here is not really appealing to most people. You know, to most of the players. Like, you want to deal with your trade chits yourself, and other people probably don't want to deal with them. There's no bonus particularly to doing so. So yeah, excitement in the exploration, a depletion here. Change the counter since Asia has all of its bases on the board. Decreasing this seemed advantageous, plus it gives a big bonus for crude exploration. Awesome. Base building, almost nothing. EU built a settlement there. They've got a base on the way. Just like... I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's the only base on the way right now. South America's close? No, they've got all their bases. Who does not? China doesn't have all their bases. They're not doing anything. EU doesn't have all their bases, and they're in the process of building their second to last one. Here at Uranus, they may actually shoot out further if there's something more attractive than the Neptune pick that everybody's on. And we're done with the turn. I'm going to push this forward, leave this marker here, and on an 01 it's over. Yay. Okay. And that's probably it tonight. I'm going to probably play some video games or something. It's dying on the floor for a while, and every time I walk near it, I'm afraid I'm going to step on it. Well, I finally did. Maybe I should put it in a place where dice go. I don't know. I'm not sure why it's there or what it's from or anything. It's an iffy die. Okay, so for the initial turn production, again, nobody has much money left except The Russians had a pile, but everyone else is kind of running on a shoestring budget at this point. And that means the wars are mainly over. China's clearly out of it. The Russia-South America war, South America doesn't have cash. They still have a working warship. I can try to protect something, but we're kind of at the aftermath situation here where I have to get away and I have to last, almost half of a decade facing a fleet that could rebuild, that we're putting materials up there for it, and B is already larger than mine, so not much can happen there. And on the other side, for the North American versus Chinese, the North American fleet got meanly wiped out, but, damaged, heading off to repair. But there's another ship coming. The Chinese are, unable to recover at all. So China is pretty much going to be losing all their resources because there's nothing they can offer. There's no surrender. There really isn't any deals in this game that allow you to conduct any kind of diplomacy outside of, yep, gonna lose my stuff. And that's fine. With all the victory points they have, taking their stuff away is worthwhile. The problem is it's the North Americans who are paying to do this, largely because they failed in a diplomacy die roll where everyone else succeeded or whatever, but that's the way the game works. And I certainly don't mind that diplomacy gets you stuck in wars and stuff, although it needs to be a lot more complicated to work properly. It's a neat kind of direction to head in, but it doesn't address the idea of, a separate peace should be easier to, a global peace should be perhaps easier to obtain than what seems the most likely, which is a global peace with an attempt at a global peace that ends up being separate pieces accidentally and stuff like that. So there would have to be a much, much more complicated system to make this really kind of reflect things. Anyway, the people who are exploring can still push out. The people who were involved in military actions, not so much. That's kind of the problem. Is Russia's still gearing up another battleship, but then we're going to start working on growing our colonies. But and the people who lost or who are drained of their income have very little they can do. Even the EU, who was not at war this time, is only lifting one material. But I did build a booster to throw stuff from the asteroid belt. So clear cut as I thought. Another South American ship showed up, another decent sized one. So they're at 8, and they're at war with Russia. Russia's at 15, so I probably want to get out of there with the South Americans, but there's an interception, China's indeed screwed, though. On the bright side, China is only in an embargo with the U.S., which means my ships can get away, my badly damaged ships. Russians caught the South Americans trying to leave, did it as a close-in battle, which was probably a mistake, and as a fire battle, whatever, direct fire, and ended up damaging the hell out of all the South American ships, which means they're even less capable of doing anything. But now they can go hide under a large defense network on their way out. But they were stopped. They're stuck there. The Russians, on the other hand, ended up with a ship that is not in good shape. Well, one ship that's badly beaten up, and one ship which is not operational, but is in pretty close to good shape. Whatever. But yeah, we would have liked more victory points. I went with the direct fire because it would do more damage, and I figured I was going to do such overwhelming damage. I threw extra. I had tactics points that allowed me to throw extra damage in. Wasn't enough. Okay. I think that's it for South America. The first person moving. South America having defeated the Chinese fleet and it having no chance of recovery. Our choices are kind of weird. So we sent one of our big warships over to go bust up what's left of, you know, the resources there. We can't touch the ships. We can't touch the bases. We're only in embargo. Our other ships are sent out this way. One of them because it's a good explorer. If we get our Independence base up, we can go, it's not big enough yet. We can go start exploring, I guess, the Kuiper Belt. But, you know, there's not much out there to explore. But the other thing is we can decommission either or both of these ships. The little one, definitely the intention is to decommission it and just get materials out there whenever it arrives. Hopefully that is, ouch. Uh-oh. That's not good. It's on the 4-turn delay, which means 1, 2, 3. It won't be shifting until after the decade when I have to pay for them. So I'm going to drop them on Uranus instead, which can actually service them even. However, you can't recover them, but it can repair the one. Yeah, we're good. There are some non-warlike activities. Russia, not much. I mean, the North American was the last one. The Japanese did. They're shifting ships around, you know. Although they are going for this asteroid, which will be a bonus. The Russians searched for the South American fleet, and the South Americans outrolled them heavily and do not want to fight. That ends them. We go to the EU. After Asia starts pumping more stuff into the Kuiper Belt for that last couple of explorations out there. There are still some exploration opportunities. Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, but they can't be done by CVs. And that means building a robot to go do that. And for Jupiter, it's probably worthwhile. Some of these others, I don't know. But the problem with doing it at Jupiter is you end up in a war and somebody will go shoot it. You know, that's the advantage of the ones way out there. They're so far away, nobody can shoot them. But yeah, we kind of left Jupiter unexplored. You know, Uranus and Neptune, we've done better jobs at. Just because I stopped focusing here when there's no longer anything to search for. It's usable. The Chinese limped their fleet back into the nearest base. I see some reason actually not to have it there. They have a lot of damage to repair. Let's send it over here. I hate stacking these though, so that's going to be painful. But yeah. On an exploration, Asia managed to deplete the Kuiper Belt another layer. The EU, going through the scattered disk with their flyby, had a mechanical failure and did not get anything too exciting out of it. They got a chip, but that's it. And their route to Alpha Centauri has been closed again. They can launch something else, but probably not this decade. I mean, I have the cash, I could do it and get it started. And the thing is, each turn, it might not, you know, the game might end before it reaches there, and it takes a while to get there. It takes like a couple decades to get there, and it's pretty iffy whether or not it's worth taking that shot there. I don't think we're going to get crude exploration out there. Again, the game could last long enough, in which case, you know, there's a fair amount of points to that. You partially made up for that, finding signs of life in the deep space astronomy. That gives them a victory point, and a pile of other goodies, some biomarkers, etc. And Japan, their constant orbiter out here that's just generating slow grind of points. Japan harvested an Orvistar, an asteroid, and they didn't fill up, but they got quite a bit. They've got a couple of choices. They could stick around next turn and harvest another asteroid. Next turn puts these guys in this box. On the other hand, if I move back next turn, dump my iron, I would be in a race with Asia. So if I don't harvest that asteroid, Asia will end up getting it. Since it's worth a victory point, that's probably worth more than whatever materials I'm going to get out of it. So I probably just want to blow it up. In one of those places where I feel like I'm at a loss. North America has one of their big haulers here. Oh, here's the other one. Okay. That's, again, that looked like a warship, but it's not. Yeah. So I thought I had lost one of their big exploration and mining ships when, I'm looking all over and I don't know where it is. And it's very easy to lose track of something. For example, I found one of their ships, sitting under a pile of stuff and hauled it home. That might have been this one, indeed. But I didn't know where the other one was. I looked, I saw, oh, there's one here. It's not clear that this is of the same type, although they had the same image. But it's a hard game to keep track of all the ships that you have juggling in the air. And sometimes something just gets lost, like maybe this. That's building a base. Just got there this turn on a planet, and just start forgetting about it because there's just this chaos of information. It doesn't help that I have all the ships for the nations up against the board the way I do. I didn't realize how much confusion that would create with the bases and everything kind of spilling all over the place. I would not suggest setting it up quite the way that I have it, but no way I'm going to clean it up now. As I work through my bases, that's the end of the turn. This is the O2 turn. EU opened up another base where everybody else is going to set up a research station there as the primary goal. More important than anything else I'm doing over there. And other people largely improving their population counts. Asia is opening up a dialogue with South America about the possibility of terraforming Mars. It's the most expensive thing to terraform. Everybody's there. But I got a whole pile of the stuff I need to build towards that. And South America has, and I have a lot of settlements there. South America has more settlements. If they're willing to invest in it, we both gain something basically over our competitors. I think there's one other, China, who is over 20. Everyone else is under 20. Nope, Japan is at 24. It's going to be harder to pull them along, but the main thing is I've got all these resources, and it's going to be hard to move them before the end of the game. The problem is each terraforming point is 4. So 15, 16, 17, 18 there, that only gets me 4 of the 24 needed. So we're nowhere near, And Asia's kind of, South America's kind of pointing that out to them. And we're not going to get there. We got to get to 50%, 12 to make it worth anything at all. And 24 gets us to high value. That's the end of the turn, and it's time for me to work. The lights, there's something weird up on my, you can see that flickering going on, and it kind of drives me crazy sometimes when I notice it, like right here, but occasionally some of my viewers are bothered by it. Today I took a several day operation, had to wash my ladder, bring it up. I still dump a bunch of crap here. Went up there, tried to see what I could do with it. So what's happening is those are LED lights, and that's a dimmer device. which should be a problem for all of them or none of them. And oddly enough, they work fine as long as I have it on full, or used to work fine as long as I had it on full power. And I had 4 of the 5 lights working. I didn't replace the 5th one. I apparently never had a bulb for it. But the bulbs, one of them went out, and now one of them has gone to flickering. Now, the one that went out maybe is burned out. I went and tested both of them, and unscrewing and screwing it back in didn't seem to work. Fiddling around with the, the holder didn't work much, or it didn't have any effect. And I'm kind of left with I don't know what the fuck's going on with it. Whether there's maybe an electrical problem in the actual track light. Maybe I should have just unscrewed that one a little and left it completely out. But anyway, I mean, I spent a lot of effort trying to fix this and got nowhere. And I don't have any replacement bulbs that I want to put up there. I mean, I could put something else there. I don't want LEDs, obviously. But the halogens I have, I don't even know if they'd fit in there. They're indoor-outdoor spotlights, and I think they're a little too big. And regular bulbs, I don't know what they'd do in those. Anyway, back to the game. Just gotta always throw random garbage in here. We'll leave my health out of this. That's one of the random garbage of why I haven't been able to play as well. I've just been sleeping a lot. Unable to recover still. Okay, so we did the sort of production type stage for the game, and North America regenerated a ship which I can use to smack around some Chinese goods. I'm going to have to make a decision how many ships I want. I may have to decommission some ships, but I do want to be able to hit this at Mars. Oh, I have a ship heading there already. I don't know. Okay. Maybe I should have decommissioned. Maybe I should have decommissioned the ship rather than recharging it. Because I've got a lot of warships on the board. Don't I? Maybe not. They scattered. Okay, I think I'm okay. I'm not positive. I've got 3 ships there, 4, and 2 of them are my carriers. I'm okay. I'm okay with the North America. They're going to spend some money, but it means that I have a fleet just in case, a war boils over, or nobody's going to declare war on me, but there's some chance I don't get out of war. Russia, who's in much better condition but doesn't have that many victory points piled up, not the way China does, they're not quite the target. They built a new ship. They're still in a war with South America. South America still has some active warships. Not much, but in order to cover South America completely and, handle their bases and blockade them and everything, I need a fair number of warships. I may be a little overwhelmed, but yeah, I've got ships that are damaged that maybe need to be. Otherwise, we have, other than Russia, nobody's got shit for money, basically. I mean, yes, Asia's lifting some materials, and the EU is, and Russia, of course. But otherwise, it's kind of hey, let's see, we can fling 1 material per turn from Mars if we use the resources that fit there. And that's the kind of thinking that's in place. You got iron and fire, throw some of it around, even if you don't have a whole hell of a lot. It's easier to produce. All right, so not expecting a whole lot to happen this turn, but I wanted to show you again how much things are degrading, and we're only on, turn 7, turn 8 of 10, because turn 0 is the first turn of every decade. So yeah, turn 8 of 10, which means, we've got 3 turns total that almost nobody can do anything new and expend money. Look at where things are happening. There's a lot going on here, but those are all damaged ships, I think. Yeah. Uh, the Japanese ones aren't, but they're not anymore. Over here, though, there is something interesting, which is Russia wants to hit the South Americans. However, no reason to trump in. South Americans are in that box. They're not going anywhere without me getting an interception chance, which is as good as my search chance. And, you know, they can fling one ship at a time, but then I get to intercept one ship at a time and maybe pick them off, all of them. On the other hand, I can do more damage if they're gathered together. So I probably will try to get away one at a time. By one, using this ship because it's not fatigued, even though it has no damage capability, can still search. We hunted down and successfully caught every single one of the South American ships as it's going out, which is 2, 4, 7 victory points and engineering chits. Turn in the engineering chits. That gives South America a big lead in. But that's not a lead you particularly want to earn. And not only, you know, yeah, you could look at it as, well, it cost me those ships, but I got a lot of research off of them essentially. So, you know, how much different is it than sending things out? Sure, I didn't get any victory points really, but I also did it at the cost of putting Russia up there in the victory point run, and that may be overall for the good. It may mean that next turn, even if I want to try to get out of the war, at least some other people are going to pile in on Russia, and maybe you know, even if I can't get out of the war, at least I'll have perhaps some allies in it. I don't know though, you know. Again, that's the once a decade thing, and the game might be over by then. We've handed all those victory points over. North America, I chose actually to reverse my decision and decommission that ship instead of provisioning it. Like I said, I've got a chance to go whack this. There's no defenses there. There's no chance of any occurring. So no biggie there. What I didn't count in my ship total was these guys. Yes, one of these is definitely decommissioning. Probably both of them. But, you know, I was up at 1, 2, 3, 4, something like 6 CVs. That doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if I end up building one of these monsters next turn. Which I'm probably going to want if I'm in a war, you know. CV5, it's not bad, but it's not my CV7s. I think I'd rather keep them alive and only build the little ones as needed, kind of. So, yeah, probably wanted to send it out further, but this isn't terrible. Russians sending ships out, now they have kind of a weird situation. So I've got ships heading out to Saturn, whatever. And there's interesting stuff out there with Libertad. That I can attack. Unidad and Progreso, they're both sitting with large defense networks. I don't really know. I don't have the kind of shipping that I want to throw away for that. Maybe I want to decommission. I don't know. But, or I can refurbish it if I lift materials, but right now it's on decommission status. And in fact, so is this, you know, which may be a better ship. Same kind of crap. But I do want to blockade one of their locations just for the hell of it, and because I want to keep the ship, and it might as well do something useful. There's nothing left to do. I could run it way out like I'm doing over here. That's not me. Those are US ships. Yeah, no, this one. Where, you know, I might be able to explore someday with it. But you know what? My exploration range isn't very good. Yes, I have a large base at Uranus, but that gets me as far as Neptune, and there's nothing to look for there. So, you know, yeah, maybe the range is going to increase, and I'll be able to get out to the Kuiper Belt, where there's one remaining, you know. Unless I get the unlimited range, those ships aren't going to be able to do shit, and it's going to take them a while to get out to Alpha Centauri. So, unless the game goes long, probably don't want to send them there. May not want to send a warship there anyway. If I do, it's probably a little one just to get the victory points for Alpha Centauri. You know, hey, I did an exploration and succeeded, rather than I had a really good chance of exploring with this ship. So yeah, that's about it for Russia. I gotta reload my pipe, get other drink, probably water, and finish up these moves. Needed flints. So EU continuing to try to set up things so that they can do some mining out near their furthest base, which doesn't have anything on it yet except some materials that I boosted. But I had some warships sitting over here. I'm pushing them out to Jupiter. This is preparation for the next decade. However you want to look at it. If I decommission them, I'd rather have them in Jupiter where they're going to make more points if they create settlements. More likely though, I'm going to keep those navies or those ships because I don't have a big navy, and there is this kind of growing, hey, what about Russia? We schwacked China pretty good. What are we doing with Russia? With that anti-Russia strategy is, yeah, you know, China's in the lead, but not far behind Russia is Japan, who might have been the target anyhow. They're keeping their navy alive just because I can't risk, you know, I can't put myself in a position where I have to build a new navy. Yeah, it can be done pretty quickly, but there's a cost in resources. Of course, there's a cost in cash to keeping your navy, especially when you're Japan, who can only maximum pay for 3 of their ships. However, I don't know, that may be what I have. I have this one. And this one picked up another asteroid, getting another victory point, and dumped some iron because iron's less valuable, harder, easier to get out there, and I can fly it out. That pushes this down. There was something else I wanted to say. I don't remember quite what it was. I'm not seeing a lot in terms of the research happening, you know, I mean, it's really kind of plinking at the edges. So like Asia chose to mine there instead of trying to get the last point, because they're looking at 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they've got a fair chance of getting it shit. But at this point, I was just like, yeah, let's get the resources first. And then when we fatigue trying to find, it probably a dumb idea because resources are definitely cheaper than technological chits, but it's what I chose. Stupid me. And that ends the turn. We're at 3%. It's the biggest deal in the game. Okay. Base building, nothing too exciting. People just building up settlements for the most part. Russia's still building them up in Earth orbit, and I really question the materials that I have here. Am I thinking that it's further out and shooting stuff to it because I'm like, oh, those must be valuable? Because they're not, and I'm being stupid if that's the case. But who knows? I may have transshipped some materials there just to even things out. I don't know. But yeah, not a lot going on, and the turns are beginning to really snap through. In fact, even the last turn where there were a couple military actions, and I think there was some in this one too. The Russians picked off the South American fleet. It's still been going quickly because the big decisions have already been made. The hard part is how to position your fleets, you know. The actual fighting of the battles isn't that expensive. It's the thought that goes into, yeah, how am I going to catch him here? And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Lan, not the craziness of, I don't know which direction I'm going or anything. Here you know the direction, but you know, you have to kind of manipulate so that your ships hit together at the same time if they're coming from multiple directions. And if you don't do that, you have them kind of come in piecemeal, and that can be pretty bad, although sometimes it can work. You know, they're reinforcements, but they're in real danger if your first fleet gets the crap beat out of it and your ships start trickling into the enemy strong point. There's no way. You're not allowed to change position once you're en route to somewhere, which, you know, communications are at the speed of light. It doesn't make a lot of sense, essentially. You should be able to say, uh-oh, can't go to Jupiter. But on the other hand, there should be some possibility for interceptions out in the deeper space whatever that is, of the solar system. Anyway, that's it. Might have time for another one this turn, this evening, but you know, it's not gonna finish tonight unless I get a lucky or unlucky die roll, depending on how you look at it. Reason for the settlements, those are worth victory points. It's really hard to say, yeah, you know I want a war in this next decade. Although some players might be able to say, you know what, I have no chance of winning without a war, and if I clobber the shit out of Russia or something, I can't take their victory points away. It's kind of a shame. Oh, one thing I was thinking as a possibility for an expansion to the diplomacy system, allow diplomacy actions to take place every turn instead of every decade. And you say, well, you know, the game has this kind of decade pulse. I know, I really hate that. And I understand why the economic phase is on that level. But players do collect up politics markers. And what would be the difficulty with it? Well, it makes going in and out of wars far easier. However, I feel like it aligns better to like the reality, which is if you're doing really well or really poorly or whatever, you know, if you've won some important battles or done some important explorations, you might be able to cut some sort of deal by spending those political markers to get yourself out of a war. You might also say, this would be the time when an economic alliance makes sense. Or, you know, we're already at war. Now let's try to, we're at war together, co-belligerents. Let's try to make an actual military coordination by getting it all the way up to alliance, whatever. Anyway, I don't think that would do too much harm to the game. What? And obviously, I think that it adds more than whatever harm it might do, is what I'm saying. Because by allowing people a little bit more flexibility in pushing for alliances, etc. Now, what's weird about it? Well, everyone always has some diplomacy chits at the beginning of a decade. So they can influence the diplomacy that's going on. What that means is a temporary advantage in a war only counts if it happens at the end of the decade. You know, you could aim for a temporary advantage in the per turn situation and be able to end the war a little early or start a war a little early if, you know, you found neat stuff, whatever. You're not going to have, you know, you don't have the tech jump at that point. You don't have the big economic jump at that point. But I'm not sure that there's any reason they all have to align together. So I think by by moving the diplomatic phase out of that broad economic phase and into the build and service phase, you allow yourself a little bit of flexibility. And the neat thing is, on the first turn of the decade, you wouldn't have any diplomacy chits at that point. So the game is still the same there. It just doesn't, it means that there's an opportunity for alliances to shift in the course of actions. So for example, let's say China is, you know, decimated like they are, can't really do anything. There's nothing North America can gain off them, but North America has some politics markers. They could end the war with China to both players' advantage, you know, because North America doesn't necessarily want to be maintaining those warships and degrading China further. Again, though, I'm not sure what impact it would have. I'm just kind of spitballing this. All right, let me go watch some baseball videos or something. Much interesting happening in the pre-planning. One thing happened during the movement that was kind of cool. The South Americans were launching materials out of Unidad. They built a booster and was going to launch something. And as I checked that launch, I noticed, wow, the Russians had ship in the flyby box, which would allow an interception. So, I mean, I would have allowed myself to roll it back, but I decided to do it anyway because what it meant was increasing a research station. And we were in a position where the Russians were going to be able to blockade me very shortly. Had they jumped their turn, they would have gotten to anyway. So I decided to take a shot, and the Russians shot down the unmanned thing. It doesn't, so here's the thing, if either side succeeds in an interception roll, it ends there when it's a robotic unit, and it's just dead. So it was a low chance of success, and I wasted some materials that maybe I shouldn't have because that was my only iron there. But okay. Hoping to get out of the war, I guess, no matter what. Otherwise, most of the movement, nothing too exciting going on to exploration. And the turns are just flying, you know. We got a couple of blockades just being set up to the end of the turn and plink off resources, like here. And, well, the Russians at Unidad don't want to hit it because there's a big defensive factor there. I don't want to waste my fleet on that, or my ship on that. I'd be at even, you know, yeah, maybe I could do damage to South America. I don't feel like South America's winning the game. What I just want to do is put them in a position where maybe they stop fighting this war with me. But the noise at the table is sounding like Russia's going to have to fight other players as well, the way China faced a collusion of players. The only question is anybody going to pick on Japan, or are they just going to walk away with lots of victory points on their hand and, you know, deep exploration, deep colonization, etc. And maybe not the deepest. As you can see, there's no settlements there, whereas some other people do have them. I think Asia has some, but they just don't have as many victory points. So if we look at the Japanese victory points, they're at 18. Russia's at 23. Japan has this already. Russia doesn't even have it queued up. Only the North Americans have it queued up. So the three players who are there each have a big bonus in victory points. The biggie being that Japan and Russia are essentially in the same position. The difference? Russia's at war with someone. Granted, they're not in a very, you know, they've got the dominating position, but if other people come in on South America's side, that could make South America a factor where they're not a factor otherwise. But again, who's going to take care of Japan in that case? I don't know. Exploration and mining had one notable event. That long-lasting Japanese orbiter finally crashed. So now, other than the flybot, it's pretty much the CVs out there doing all the work, and mainly it's mining work. Although I did try to do a search on Kuiper and fatigued myself. I got a chit, but you know, yeah. Things wrap up as normal. No military builds at all of any nature, but a lot of settlement builds, trying to get to those victory points. I don't know where we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4%. That's it. Everybody pretty much boosting the last piddling bits of resources they have left to expend. In some cases, you have someone like the North Americans creating a booster to throw materials around from one system to another. And probably a useful thing anyway, and the only way I'm going to get the ability to build, say, an additional settlement out here. Russia's still has some additional cash, but, you know, enough to last them one more turn, but that turn doesn't exist in this decade, and everything changes at the beginning of a new decade. But everyone else really just kind of moving tiny little bits of crap around. I got to make a decision on whether Japan wants these two fleets. They have a lot of ships, I think. No, they don't. Russia considered dismantling theirs. They don't have very many ships. It's North America that kind of has too many, but they can't really afford to dismantle this. This produces resources, which are probably more valuable than money on Earth. So yeah, I think we're good. The Japanese have 1, 2, 3 ships total, if I'm right. They may have something somewhere that I'm not seeing. Make it 4 ships total, which means they're going to be paying a few extra bucks. But again, the iffy thing there is, do I want this CV5 here? I'm a little worried about the possibility of a war and having the resources, spending the extra money rather than dismantling the ship makes sense, because getting the resources where I need them is a lot harder than, remember, I only get to keep half of what the ship's made out of, rounded up, but still, if I dismantle this, that's going to cost me 3 iron, 2 blue supplies, and 1 fuel. That's about the cost of materials on Earth that I won't be as easily able to get back up to the planet. So rebuilding that ship won't necessarily be trivial. And if I am in a war, I will want these as well as the additional bigger ships that I can build. I do have room for all 3 of these warships, if that's the case, I believe. Let me think. I'm at 3. That means I can hold 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm good. So yeah, I will keep the last ship. And that's the end of 2140. I think I did this on one video. Still a long one, but nowhere near as long as some. It's been a short decade, honestly. I thought these wars were going to be much more painful. I'm getting a little more comfortable with them. I think things are speeding up a little bit no matter what. And certainly at this point where, the last few turns, the decades of the decade have just flown by because almost nothing happened. And this one's particularly indicative of that. There was some mining, an exploration attempt with the deep space, and that's really about it. Most of the exploration's been eaten up. Nobody's got the money to go send robots to Jupiter or anything. And with all the wars going on, it's kind of hard. Yes, they're not going to get shot down if you're not a belligerent, but unlike in World War I or II, China cleared up one of their chits. I don't think anybody else had a chit that they could get rid of easily. And I'm not going to double check, except I'm doing it. I always lie, right? And the only thing left to do is make a die roll and see if the game ends. And I don't know what the percentage is. It's low still. But it ain't that low. Yeah, 87, no. Okay, so that means we have another economic phase. And at the end of that, I'll load this up. Should be done tonight. Turns out I was mistaken in my memory. There was indeed another video for the first 3 years or so of this decade. And then we ran through the rest all at once. And because I ended it so early, it stuck in my head, but it didn't stick in my head, and I kind of not only forgot about it, but it felt like I had been playing for a long time in terms of turns, which I had. Okay, so everybody got their 2 political markers, which is just what people grab now. Unless I've screwed up all game. That's quite possible. Yep. So I have not been giving the first 2 political markers. I've just been giving the bonus political marker, which may be part of the issue that I'm facing. So yeah, let me deal out a couple more each. That gives enough markers to actually conduct diplomacy. It felt like I had far too few as the wars were happening, and I just forgot that you do get a base of 2 no matter what, plus that crappies. What that means is people actually have enough to spend on initiative if they want to. Now, China doesn't want to spend on initiative. They want to, get out of the war, get some technology. They don't think anybody's going to press them. Even though they have the leading victory points, they've been smashed so hard that if war can do anything, if all it does is holds you steady, they're winning the game. But I think they've taken enough damage that they've been brought down. I don't feel like counting everything out, but they've really been unable to produce settlements, for example. You can see they've got 2 bases out there empty of settlements. The furthest base that they wanted to produce, all that's being taken away, and that's a fair amount of points. I believe settlements are worth 2 each in the beyond area, which is where we're at now, for the most part, and I'm not in there. I haven't put any points down, whereas other people have put down a fair number of points. And they have capabilities to move elsewhere. But yeah, it does make the fact that people have more than just a couple political markers coming out of a war situation, because there's not a lot gained for exploration, means that we have the capability to put in points down for initiative, which I think is pretty important at this point. It's been important in terms of winning the technological race, but I'm finding in the military situation, being able to get the jump here and there has been vitally important. So we're going to put some thought into these. I don't know who's going to do what, but we'll see. People made the choices to pay. Taking one of the thinking situations into play, EU, they were afraid they would be in the lead in most of the tech chart, but they're not. They've got a few, quick tech bonus. They've got a few spaces that they can eat up, which makes up for maybe not having to go early. Here, for example, they're the last person into that space, so that's an attractive space. I don't know what it is. It is the recall rate, which is important no matter what, so yeah. And we decided not to pay, but where the only payments happened, 2 for the Russians and 1 for South America, the 2 people most in a war situation. South America wants to get out of that war. Russia may want to, but if they win their initiative, they can make their decisions better as to what they're going to do with peace and war, because if everybody sort of gangs in on them, or gangs up on them, then they can try to negate those gang ups with their additional large number of political points. They have a fair number. EU actually is sitting with the most at 10. They're planning on turning those into tech. There were 3 points each because they were at peace. So that's a pretty good, pretty good exchange that they can get. Whereas the people who were at war are not going to be able to tech it up as much from their research. However, the actual numbers didn't come out, quite how you'd expect. So yeah, Russia got a big point total, but there's still a fair amount of variance. And Asia, with only a plus 40 bonus, no extra chits in there. Russia had a plus 70 bonus, ends up at 129. And some others, like China had a big plus 50 bonus. They're at 55. Less variable than doing it as percentages, as the rules seem to imply, but but still highly variable. A lot of luck involved, and it's an important die roll, and it's one where it's like, yeah, I can improve my chances, and you do have a little bit more control by using politics markers than how I first interpreted it, where if you roll really shitty, you got much less. Well, that's not the case. Okay, so let me arrange that, and then I'll look into the diplomacy. And first we have the possibility that one of these nations moves towards neutral on everyone. We have a lot of potential movement going on here. First of all, China trying to get out of the U.S. Nobody got a degradation. I rolled a 9. China trying to get out of the U.S. and really trying to get out of it hard. That frees the U.S. up, and we'll talk about that in a minute. South America manages to convince Japan and Asia to go in against Russia, so they're not going to play any chits. They could go for alliances. That would be helpful overall, but what I found is, hey, as long as you're not looking at, what we're going to see, perhaps, which is lots of people at war with each other who aren't allied, and there's some mix-ups in between, alliances may not be that big a deal, because what we've seen is, hey, you're being harassed here, here, and here. Yeah, you can take out one person's fleet, but you're going to take damage, and then you're not capable of handling another person's full fleet. Now, South America does not have a fleet worth talking about right now. So they're kind of in the position Europe was after its turn with war with China. Japan does indeed jump in, throws a couple chits on the Russians, hoping to bring them to war. EU, hey, let's just expand, man. We're not in great shape. Yes, we have a couple of naval ships. Let's see what happens. North America, though, is putting their points on Japan. They're counting on China to get them out of the war, and they're moving against Japan with what we think is a pretty good navy. And we figure, okay, I think we can take them on, especially if like Russia has another big navy. So what the hell? Russia is trying to take Japan out of the war, though. They're ignoring South America, which is no big deal. Now, Asia hasn't played yet. The rumors and sounds are there. They also go ahead with their Russian situation. So let's start picking some of these off. So for the U.S., going against Japan, that's 2 rolls, and I believe we're looking for 6s here. 6 or higher, right? No, 6 or less. So I got 2 shots on Japan. I get Japan down 1. Now, Japan didn't play anything against us, so that indeed moves, and we're in an embargo state with North America. Okay. The Russian one, we're trying to help with Japan, so let's roll to see how the Russians do. They get 1 success, and the Japanese get 1 success, so nothing moves on either of theirs. EU not doing anything. Let's go look at China. They've got 2 rolls on North America. Nobody else is involved in this. They get 1 success. They're now at peace with North America, which means I can get rid of these blockade markers, and I can find the North American ships and move them. Yeah, that's a Russian ship. I don't know. I'll try to find them. God, where are they? Here's one. And the other one, I think, was on Jihui or Xing or something. There it is. Okay, great. So they get out of their war. Let's see if Asia manages a war with Russia. Yeah, they go all the way to war with Russia. This is a big deal because Russia is now at war with 2 powers. And South America did nothing. So let's make sure we have everything going on. Forgot to move this. So North America and Japan are at an embargo state. And this is kind of interesting because although Japan, didn't have a war situation, or maybe in better shape than North America, North America has an existing larger navy and was not really taxed by their fight with China. So their resources are not in that bad a shape. Japan has a big pile of fuel. That's about the biggest difference. The Russians, however, are now facing a fully fledged potential opponent who still doesn't have as big a navy as they do. And South America, who, yeah, they were taxed, but they're not as low down as China was for the last war turn. Remember, China went through 3 turns of war, or 3 decades of war. That's what got them into, and 2 of them losing war. That's what got them in that position. South America is in 1 turn of losing war. They're more closer to where Europe was. With Asia aligned with them, they may be able to put a bit of a hurt on the Russians. Japan getting neutralized, yeah, that kind of takes things out of play. But it does mean that both the players who are kind of looking like they're in the lead, Russia especially, but also Japan, have gotten pulled into a war. And that'll put me on the big bad production. The place to step in, because this is sort of a strange thing that we haven't seen before. North America, I calculated out their Earth production and their tech points. They're very low in cash, only $15 after I paid for all the extra bases and ships they have. 18 of it on bases, 10 of it on ships. That doesn't leave me with much to play with. That's not a helpful thing. However, for biology, heavy 3 research bases, all with some settlements on them, all valuable bio bases. That gets us, this was, we flipped over going around the edge here, so we're at like 75 tech points. That's how you get enough points to go big. I also had a big pile of chits. Apparently a lot of units being fatigued, because I'm pretty sure not much of that came from research. Research going on means, you know, Russia has the same situation. Most of the powers do. They followed the same kind of pattern. Means that there are not a lot of bases producing resources, and the ones that are actually close into Earth. So for North America, they kind of tried to balance things out, but Russia did the opposite of, and I don't know if they have, wherever the, yeah, this is the big trade route one that allows you to move 15. Russia does not have that. They only have 10 movement, but they went for a very concentrated, let's build the most resources we can. One of the reasons is they have an extra CV and an extra base for free, and have less ships out there than the North Americans do. So they have a big pile of cash comparatively. So I can boost some things in addition to rearranging them. So I'm counting on being able to do that. Although I'm at war with a new power in terms of the Asians that is fresher than the South Americans. Of course, you know, North America is facing Japan, who is got a powerful navy in play right now, I believe. Not a huge one, less than the North Americans. Of all that war is actually showing very nicely on China. They have a fair amount of money because they have less bases. They haven't extended all their bases out. Like the EU is in the same position. They don't. They're actually under their ship limit, so they only paid $10 total. But their production has left them with very little entirely, and their technology, because they haven't been exploring and they haven't been winning battles. Well, winning battles doesn't help with technology, but they haven't been losing ships, right? They could have lost a lot of ships. Instead, they just took damage. Of course, that would be victory points for North America if they had gotten them, but their technology isn't that good. Their bio is pretty decent. But there are other technologies. In particular, I'm looking at the engineering and the physics. They may have had larger amounts that they threw away half of than they have total now. They had almost nothing in terms of chits. Now, they did cash in some engineering chits due to losses, but they didn't lose much this turn, as shown by the fact that North America doesn't have a lot of victory points. Oh, and this is sort of a semi-blockade. It's in the flyby box. I like to remind myself of those so that, you know, I don't fly stuff I don't count on being able to move materials through those bases. Thinking about Asia having a navy, if I said something about that, they do have a lot of ships. They're all explorer producer ships. That are out there, which is dangerous because it means, yes, we have the initiative, so we can do the jump and get away from our enemy, who's Russia, which is kind of important. If that wasn't the case, there would be the danger of Russia being able to slam our easy ships, our weak ships for easy victory points, which would be a shame, to tell you the truth, a serious shame. In terms of production, Well, they're going for heavy iron production actually, although I produced a lot of supplies here, but I produced iron at both of these. The idea being I need iron for war. I have the good 15-point shift for the trade, so I'm in pretty good shape for moving stuff around. Nothing's blockaded in any sense, so I can get things through without any problem, at least to begin with. Technology-wise, Asia is the nation, well, and South America for that matter, that has optimized its research, okay? Most of the countries optimize their bio research, but here I've got, well, the same amount, but of physics research. So you're not seeing the kind of preponderance of bio research that you're seeing from North America and Russia, but we've got a serviceable amount of physics points, which we wouldn't have had otherwise, even though we were actually doing some exploration work. It just wasn't very effective because the numbers are getting so low. Okay, as to balance out their production a little bit. I would have liked to produce more iron, but I didn't have any blue there, and that's the place to produce blue, so that was pretty good. And this is a shitty place to produce iron, and I didn't have any blue there, so yeah. I hope I'm able to lift stuff. I don't have a whole lot of cash on hand either. I have some iron and resources out in the hinterlands, but it's not looking too good right now. Maybe South America can take up some of the slack. My Navy's not as big as or my Navy is part of the reason I have some cash left, because I'm only one ship over my limit with my Navy, but my bases ate up the big $18 because I'm all the way up there and I've only got one free base, plus the two that I get off the policy. South America, who does have the capacity to move a lot of resources around, unfortunately has a couple of them blockaded, Unidad and Progreso, and those are actually hard blockaded. I can't do trade with them. That's going to be problematic, and what it means, I ended up doing, produce the most I can. I'm going to move this fuel, I think, out of Rojo, probably up to here, and try to build things out further out. Let Japan deal with the Russians closer in to begin. No, let Asia deal with the Russians closer in. This is going to be a problem no matter how we look at it. Russia's got the advantage just for having a navy where neither South America nor Asia have one. They were really kind of counting on Japan's navy being involved in this. That didn't work out, and Japan's in a different war instead. A damn small spaceport screws up my plans with Japan. I was planning on making this the heart. It's right here where my other fleets are of my Enterprise. Unfortunately, the ships I want to build take like 11 iron to build. So that other material is less important in a way, but if I build it down in Mars, what am I doing in terms of the Russians? We don't know yet. They haven't moved their materials around. They probably have a lot of flexibility. They can only move 10, but it looks like chances are they will be building the asteroid belt. That would divide my fleet if I set it up so that I build here. Big enough ship though, I mean, we're only facing that ship plus whatever big ship is built in the asteroid belt. Gosh, I don't know. If I can give myself some time, and it'll take time, it'll take at least one turn, they'll get to here. Next turn they're here, but by then I have my fleet built. So if I put the materials in play to build that small spaceport, I will be able to then build the big ship there. So I think that's the way I want to go. And hey, maybe a pirate will show up or something here that I can kill with those ships, right? Once again, my ability to read things that are after the ampersand is proven to be missing. After I transported all the resources to where I want them, I realized, hey, I haven't rolled for random events. When does that happen? Because I look at the next thing, NPF bases, pirates, asteroids, and trade, and I'm like, I think they should be there already. Should have been the initial thing. We're going to just jump it in here. That's going to screw with people's plans. You know, they're not going to have the opportunity to react to the random events. It makes them more potent. But I have no interest in trying to unwind stuff if they're important random events. And I can't move the book without destroying it unless I have two hands. First event is a painful catch-up one, Space Race. This is great early on, I guess, but everybody adds up the total number of settlements plus the value of the missions that they've earned. The player with the lowest total gets 5 politics markers. If there's a tie, the tied players all get 3 instead. So I'll tell you who gets the bonus, but this is going to be a fucking annoyance because there's a lot of settlements out there. The numbers involved here are very interesting. They give you a view into what the victory might look like. North America, who remember got off to a horrible start, didn't get many missions, didn't get their settlements out very well. They had some real hurts played on them early. They are lowest with 45. They're going to get the 5 politics markers. This would have been a lot more helpful early in the turn when it was early in the economic phase when it was supposed to happen. That would allow me, you know, to maybe bid up my initiative or bid more for my diplomacy actions. However, I don't think I would have chosen to do any of those, to tell you the truth. So I think it works out just peachy that I get 5 of these. That's 10 more research points because I was at war last turn and haven't been able to shift into the 3 per. But that'll be very, very helpful. But the numbers are kind of interesting to take a look at. So Russia is in the lead with 88. And then not far behind them, South America and Asia, the 2 people trying to pick on Russia. I'm a little surprised. You know, Japan and China are down fairly low. Now, China got really hurt by those years of war. And the EU is doing better than them, and I didn't really think they would be. Now, this isn't a match of victory points. Some of these people have huge amounts of settlements, like Mars, you know, and Russia has a huge amount circling Earth that just do not matter much. But, you know, it gives some view of how much stuff is out there, for whatever that's worth. Because we don't have a really good view of who's winning the game. So far, I've been doing it by your pile of victory point markers plus your missions, with kind of the thought that the settlements is about equal. It's not, you know. There are people with a lot more settlements than others that have done a better job of building them, but maybe built them closer to Earth, for whatever that matters. Okay, that's the first event. I get a second event because it's after 2100. And that one will be a 65. Thawing relations. All foreign relations go 1 space towards neutral. Oh boy. I'm going to leave this where it is. I'm going to call this some of the vagaries of what's going on. So, the planned wars failed. How about that? Again, this would have happened in a different order, and, you know, people could react to it, but I'm okay with this. Consider this to be like some kind of massive détente to prevent this great war that's breaking out. And so now what we have is only, and this makes me kind of happy because it means my next turn is not going to be the chaos that it looked like it was going to be. The players won it. It's only going to be the Russia versus Asia and South America war. So now, you know, Japan and North America have geared up for a war that's not happening. And the Russia, Asia, South America war is just an embargo. It's not as strict as it was. And that means I can get rid of this chip. And again, this is something I kind of like to do. When I screw something up, if I can justify playing it the way I screwed it up, I'm good with that. And in this case, I think that it adds actually a richness and depth to the diplomacy that was not possible within the game. Sometimes you do have situations where something's averted, where everybody was trying for it or whatever. And, you know, it's like when I forget to move units in a game, or move them, you know, or whatever in a tactical game. Sometimes that represents foot dragging or failure of orders in games that don't have those kind of rules for them. And it makes me kind of happy to see it work out. You know. Anyway, it's one of the great things. Like I said, with the tinkering, a game of this sort that's focused more on the storyline and maybe doesn't provide you with all the details that you need to produce some sort of reality, well, mistakes or rules changes and tinkering can get you to something that maybe is just as believable and acceptable. My brain feels fried, but I continued on. As far as the pirates and asteroids, I'm not going to do the tech yet. Maybe after an hour or two's rest, if I still want to do it tonight. Otherwise, it's going to wait till tomorrow. Because I hurt. My head hurts. Okay. So asteroids are the easier one. Boink, boink. And one way out here. They don't go out here. For the pirates, one on the Earth, which is going to be hard to remember. I always have trouble remembering that because it's not a base. It means that everything that's launched from Earth can be intercepted, and that's problematic. That's something people are going to have to deal with, and luckily there are some warships around, like the North American ship here, which can go cope with that, or somebody can build something at Earth and launch it immediately. If they have the elevators, it'll be trivial, and only one player doesn't, and they may, by the point that that's there. Jupiter tends to attract stuff, and then the other one out here at Neptune. And of course I've got these marked here so that I can remember where I have to worry about, hey, is somebody going to intercept my shit? And that's it, and possibly it for the night, because my brain went real fast. Physically, I've got other problems going on. I ended up getting a wasp. So I had a workman come today to do some maintenance work on my sump. Well, to do an inspection on my sump, basically. I'm terrified the thing won't work after having a flooding a couple of years back. Well, last year. Last winter, not this just recent one, but the one before. And so I had a sump put in, and paying lots of money to have it looked at, which probably doesn't need that much money. It's supposed to be like a gold standard type thing that, you know, should basically be leave it alone forever. But, you know, if the battery is dying or something like that, it could be an issue. Everything was perfect in there, which was to be expected since they just put it in. I may go to every other year instead of getting it serviced every year, but just to be on the safe side. Anyway, I'm outside paying the bill, and I feel this pain in my thigh. Now, I'm wearing sweatpants with shorts over them because they're wearing very thin and basically see-through, so and they're just my pajamas, but they're what I'm wearing, you know, at night and in the early morning. And I don't know what's going on, and I keep rubbing my thigh, worrying about, you know, wow, this really hurts, what's going on? And then after I sign the bill and I'm just kind of saying goodbye, a huge pain in my ankle, and it's my injured ankle, the one that I hurt dancing over the winter, and it has never healed. And it's, you know, maybe there was a sprain, but basically the tendon, my podiatrist told me, yeah, I went and saw a doctor about something because I didn't understand it. Told me that, yeah, it should just heal on its own, you know, and told me to use certain special shoes, which I barely ever wear because I don't wear shoes normally. Anyway, I'm around the house. Why would I wear shoes? But yeah, I'm not sure how much they help. But anyway, I get this, just, it felt like my leg just burst into flames down there when it stung me down there. And it got me, I don't know, right in here, I think. But I didn't know what the hell it was that was causing such pain. And I come inside afterwards, take my pants off because, I mean, I'm in a lot of pain in two places in my leg. And a wasp flies out of my pants. Somehow it got into my sock, crawled down there and stung me again. Damn bastard. All right. That's it for this for now. So I pushed quite far into the tech situation, mainly people taking opportunistic picks. The first really harsh choice was made, Russia, and this is probably our last purchase. Actually, the EU had a hard one where they wanted to go in every direction. Well, what they really, really wanted was they wanted to get to life support. They need two people to do it to do that. They had a whole shitload of politics tokens. They're not going to be able to get there because if they get that, then they can go up to exploration. But if they can't get that, I think they have tons of physics points, but they can't quite get, they can't get the exploration without the prerequisite, but they can get antimatter and waste some points. Yeah. I would really like to get the exploration because that increases the crew range. And in fact, so does life support. But I've used up the bio points. Actually, being opportunistic, I probably could have done it if I was more clever. But what Russia did was basically said, look, I have to spend money to get something. And they bought the battleships. Given that they're one of the three nations at war, the question then becomes, though, what about the other nations? Well, South America is going to get them anyway, but it was basically between get battleships or don't get battleships. If you got something else, you wouldn't have the resources to turn the battleships around. You'd be spending too much money, and giving South America a bonus off of them is probably a better excuse. Will Asia get them? I don't know. Asia has a shitload of politics tokens, so maybe. Oh shit, Russia couldn't do it. They don't have the antimatter drive. Crap. And I just boosted Pakistan or Asia up further because they didn't want to buy the battleships yet. They want to see if they can get them a little cheaper. Let me go back and Russia just went, so I think I can rewind this without too much pain. I think this was the only thing Russia wanted to do was spend their engineering points. They're actually kind of just screwed. I have points in bio and engineering. I hate wasting them. I'm going to be losing, half of both of those values. That's a lot of points. I have cash. I could use the 26 in bio. You know what I can do? I can create money. Because I have the exchange rates. So let's see. I can sell resources off and buy others. So the way these work, let's find one we can read, is I can buy engineering points for $1 each or sell each 2 for $1, which means I actually have a lot of capability to play with money. Which I definitely want to do. I don't want to just pass. So what do we got? We got the engineering. We want to be doing physics. We're going to need 21 points of physics to get there. And to get that, I'm willing to sell off bio. So that would be 13 physics that would come out. I'd still need 8 more. I'd have to sell my engineering off for that. I don't like doing that. So I can definitely sell this off for 13 bucks. I have no physics whatsoever, though. So that gets me 13 out of 12. I have 18 left, so I'm going to need 5. If I spend cash directly on that extra 5, then I can buy the battleships next time. Frankly, I probably should never be above 1 on here at the end of the turns now if I have exchange rates. Let me explain my thinking here. In a heavy fog, but my poor brain doesn't work anymore, which it's been not working all day. So if I get halved anyway, because I can't buy anymore, because I can't buy another tech, well, you know, this 13 tech turns into 7, so I'm losing 6 anyway. If I exchange 12 of that in for $6, I still have the 1 tech and $6 that are equal to tech in my treasury. So at worst, I break even by exchanging all my tech in. Now the danger of that is I may use my money that's not tied up in tech. I shouldn't, I should have the restraint not to do that. But that's the worry, is the psychological effect of money in your pocket burns a hole. And you end up buying stuff and launching, building more settlements or whatever. But if it's worth more than tech, it's worth more than tech. And, I should be making that judgment from a rational point of view. Which I think means since China has hit the third of theirs, they should be exchanging all of their tech for money. It's their choice at this point what to do if they're not going to go forward on something. And I don't think they want to go forward. What would they feel they really would get a bonus from? Certainly life support if I could get there. That would be $36 in bio. Make that 31. And I could get 6 more. That puts it to 25. I have the cash. However, that's a major, major cost in terms of what I'm able to put out on the board. So I think China is going to pass and exchange for money. In making that decision, I forgot that I had these. Now they're only worth 2 each. That's only 4 extra points. So if I did that right, I would have still exchanged everything, but I had 5 of these, so I get $2 off of me and have 5 of these. So with 5 of these, the question is, can I get to that 36 reasonably? And that would be 5 off of 36 brings me to 31. Thinking is almost impossible at this point. Like doing calculations, my brain does not work. What did I say? So the 5 gets me to 31. 4 more gets me to 27. And that would burn deep into my cash reserves. Cash reserves that I need to be able to lift materials up. $50 is a lot for a turn. 25 is not so much for a turn where I have to really start expanding. The other thing is, there's not that big a difference. Like, China reaches out to here. Neptune is a good planet. The Kuiper Belt, like, there's interesting stuff around Neptune. The Kuiper Belt, yeah, there's some stuff, but it's not as interesting. So I can probably afford to convert to cash and just try to expand as much as I can in this window of peace. Another factor is expansion. So that technology that I get, where that pays off is maybe being able to explore or do some other further, being able to operate further away from my bases for whatever value that is. And I'm really not sure I see much. other than the victory points for the exploration, which, again, shit. Now I have to look at the goddamn victory point chart if I want to figure out what's valuable there. This is why the game expresses the victory points so easily that you can calculate them, that you can start doing optimization problems over them very easily, instead of just sort of this feel of, yeah, I ought to try to knock out Japan first. I don't know. I mean, I really don't like when you start boiling things down to concrete victory points in a game like this. Like, it just, especially when you can start calculating out, hey, is X better than Y? How much better? Then you're playing this weird sort of optimization Euro type game over something that isn't. So in this case, yeah, let's take a look. What is the damn technology? And each technology is only worth 3, right? Colonizing the settlements are going to be worth at least 2 each. So gaining 1 tech or something is not that big an advantage in terms of victory points. So let's leave that alone. That's not that important, and that's cool because that's what my initial thought was. But again, unless you memorize this, this formula for how to win, you end up spending too much time worrying about it, because it is still accessible enough, as opposed to some games where it's just kind of like, well, I can't calculate out how I'm going to win. Take EU as an example. You can calculate out which things you might need to do to get you enough points to win, given a circumstance as you get late in the game. But they come with a lot of risk that's almost impossible to analyze on it. So in general, you just kind of do what looks like the biggest thing that you can do. And those points are sort of associated with, hey, I'm agreeing to do this a decade, 30 years in advance or whatever. So all this is kind of, it's just not something you can calculate in a game like that. And if you're playing a game like Whiff or like even Cataclysm, which feels kind of Euro-ish, you're not cracking the victory points to try to decide what you can do. You're trying to reach certain military goals more than anything else. Well, there aren't military goals here, and it's not easy to decide, is it more valuable for me to go colonize something or to do technology or to do this? And when you're faced with a hard math problem like this, one that requires a lot of juggling and all that shit, is that really what you want to do? Or would you rather be playing something that doesn't force you into that? Now, that's not, you can blank this out. Just like the thing is, the fact that this has a good, strong victory point thing shouldn't be a negative, but it is psychologically to me. The thing I have to do is I have to realize I have to give that up. I have to make sure that I'm not even aware of that shit to enjoy the game properly, because that sort of really precise, carefully evaluated victory point thing is going to drive my actions in a hideous sort of way that I'm going to hate if I start playing that way. Because Japan opened up battleships and reduced the price a little bit, Russia's had about the same amount of cash I was willing to go to get battleships before. The difference being I burned a lot of bio points, to get myself the antimatter drive I needed. And I am assuming Asia can make it as well. So far now, though, 2 of the non-belligerents, China and the North Americans, have passed and cashed in. North America was at a situation where they could really kind of bankrupt themselves to get another tech advance, or they could give themselves plenty, not the kind of money China has, but a fair amount of money to be operating. So that's not too bad a balance for them. China's, I feel like, wow, they have way too much money, but the cost would have been huge. The cost for the US was kind of huge too, because they turned in 6 chits for $6 billion. But that's only, they're only times 2 because they were a belligerent last turn. Same thing with China. They turned in 2 chits. That's only 4, 4 tech that they threw away. That I'm not sure I really had in my calculations, but whatever. All right. I realized when I did the Pirates and Asteroids, I forgot to put the trade markers out. Screw it. I'm going to do it after I do the tech. It might impact some things, not much. But the thing with the trade markers is they are another very heavy cost. They used to just be, hey, deal one out to everyone. Now, because there's so many bases, it's going in the damn anti-initiative order and trying to figure out, well, actually going in initiative order and trying to figure out, well, where do you want to draw one now? And I really don't like that. not in terms of like what the rule represents or anything. More, although there are some issues with that, but more in terms of just, it's a pain in the ass, a bigger counter mix of those chits. If you're playing with less players, it doesn't become an issue. Everybody gets one on every base. So, it's a counter mix limitation that's imposed just because of the number of players that are in the game. And is that a terrible thing? No, it's not a terrible thing, but it's also not a great, it just, I'm in the mood to be pissed off right now, I think. It's because my mind is so foggy. It makes me so cranky about everything. America had enough points left. Hey, lost all my ships, got tons of points. And didn't buy something huge the way North America did with their life support, basically. They extended life support. They extended, I think, space habitat. Or maybe, no, recall was already up there. They spent a lot of their points, I hope. They had over 70 on getting sort of to the forefront of the bio race. But somehow or another, South America ended up with more points total. And they had a pretty good mix of points, actually, where they managed to purchase the cheap battleships and the cheap genetic engineering. I could not get the life support without dipping into my funds too much, and I'll just convert the rest to cash. But basically, I got 2 unanswered picks at the end. And before that, not much else. It was EU and Asia who had picks to go. So, yeah. I sure hope I don't have like 70 US points sitting under that stack. I'm pretty sure I cannot, because I did spend 40 on this, or 38. The chip pick draws, everyone after the EU got boned out of one, but China got boned out of another one because they have so few colonies with settlements on them. Remember, I'm kind of cheating that a little bit, making it so that you can get a trade marker with a colony without a settlement to help guide where you want to build settlements. Maybe. However, that only applies if there are the excess trade markers. And again, that's just because I didn't find the errata piece on that until later. So yeah, it's settlement growth time. It's fully into 2150 for policy. The people who are at war went with the warlike policy. The people who are not went with the extra draws. The warlike policy is a big deal because that adds 2 to your combat tactics points. If you're going to be fighting something, you want that +4 tactics that you get off that and the other issue, the technology stuff. Maybe I said tech instead of policy. I don't know. Japan shifted out of their robotic into the economic, getting themselves $2. Otherwise, I feel like I'm pretty much fixed on them. The one question is, obviously you want the +2 bases. Anything less than that's stupid. There is the question of whether, hey, maybe cash is of some value, but it seems like kind of the loser pick for the most part, except that exploration, the robotic policy, is almost Nobody's really throwing a lot of robots out there. If you get out to the +1 exploration value, that could give you some value, but that's so much to expend. That's your one special pick, right? Your one massive pick, which means you'd be giving up the 3-point political markers for tech, which still seems to be the most valuable. But if the game goes on to the point where maybe tech is not all that valuable, because you could trade it in for 3 points and then get $1.50 per chit instead of $1 per chit. But if it turns out this is not the most valuable, grabbing the settlement growth one is probably the piece thing once you get close to the end of the line in the tech. We're not there yet. We're getting close in engineering, but not across the board. There's still a fair number of spaces for almost every player, especially in the bio side. But yeah. In terms of the techs, let's take a peek at them, see if anything exciting happened. The Super Heavy, EU joined the Chinese with that. Again, I got to remember that. The battleships, all the people at war, and the Japanese have battleships. Hey, they were planning on going to war, They're all set up for it. If I hadn't screwed up, things would have been different, but there was no way to unwind that in any reasonable way. What is this? This is the battleships, yeah. Speed, we saw a lot of speed increases on this turn, so we're going to see ships flying around a lot faster than we used to. We're down to, people down at the 0.4 mark now. Granted, the speed up between 0.6 and 0.4 isn't that much. The 0.2, you're doubling your speed, on that. You're having the distance that the number of spaces you have to travel on. The trade routes, everybody's caught up in that. Nobody made it to the deepest space exploration of 5 range, but the North Americans made it to the 4 range of life support. How big a deal is that? I don't know. Neptune, they can make it out to the scattered disk. That's the big deal. And some other people might have been able to make it to the Kuiper Belt who couldn't make it. But it's not enough to get me to Alpha Centauri. To get to Alpha Centauri, I believe I have to get to the unlimited distance, wherever that is. That's here, the space hibernation. And that's quite a ways away. Because even for North America, that's 120 points of builds. There aren't that many decades left, right? I'm at 2150. 2160 is the end of the game. We're not going to make the end of the tech chart on this. But that's good. You wouldn't want to be in a position where the game likely has the tech chart filled out and you're sitting there saying, I got nothing to research. On the other hand, it means that the adjustments here are maybe not as valuable as you might think. Over on the bio side, everybody's up to the recall rate. Bases are cheap for everyone. I think that's been a while for everything. And now everyone's caught up to genetic engineering, and that means everybody can do terraforming. There's still no really compelling reason for it. Even the places where there's a couple of people, Asia with 31, South America with 38, they just don't have the resources to push that all the way up. However, maybe they have enough resources between them to get it to half at this point. Problem? Well, South America is in a war, and they need these resources for that war. Asia, not so much. Oh wait, Asia's at 31. Ooh, maybe Japan at 26 could be bought into it. I don't know. Asia's also in a war. Yeah, so I don't think we're going to see any terraforming at all in this game. There's just not enough time and not enough production. And that's kind of a thing. I mean, the points you get off the terraforming do not seem worth it to me. You're talking about .5 per settlement point or 0.25 is the most likely. You kind of don't want to be sharing the planet with everyone. There's a limited number of planets that can be terraformed. They may not be the best ones that you can go to. And it takes a long time to get to terraforming. You know, if you focus on a let me colonize and terraform and all that as your entire policy, maybe it's a workable strategy. We do see a bit of groupthink that's, you know, the solo game groupthink where nobody's doing anything too different from anyone else. And once Warb proves to be valuable, everybody is kind of now considering it. In particular, we're not seeing that, hey, let me colonize, let me do this. Sometimes I like to try to convince myself, at least, that I should try out a totally different strategy in a game. I find that hard to do. Every now and then it means that I completely blow it and miss something that's important. But in a game of this size, I feel like I can spend enough sort of shoot from the hip analysis and look at the victory points and everything and kind of come to a decision of how you want to play it and what works well. But I got to tell you, there are games where those intuitions have been completely wrong, and I've had them proven very wrong. Well, one of the big ones is Freedom in the Galaxy there, where I just couldn't figure out what to do with the rebels, and it's my wife, who's not much of a gamer at all, who managed to come up with something that I think is very interesting. She wasn't able to prove it out, but it's interesting enough that I want to give it a shot. With 1830, certain strategies of trying to accumulate too much money early, and there are ways to fight it, but someone else busted the game open with that, not me, even though I had studied it a lot more than they had. So, you know, it is one of the problems with playing solo, especially when you fixate on a certain kind of play, and maybe you're not the brightest person that you know, and there are other people who just kick onto something and latch onto it and see what a value is that you wouldn't see. And ideally, I would test out those different strategies and see how they work. It's just psychologically very difficult for me. All right, I'm going to send this one up. It's a huge video. And yes, it's the second one of this decade. But we're actually close to the end no matter what. We're looking at 2 more decades, maximum, of the game. And I didn't realize that at all. Somehow it just did not come to my mind. And then also, you know, we're only at 5, I think it's 6% chance of the game ending this turn, but the game could end on any turn, even though the end is coming up. I thought it was closer to, you were going to start making rolls in well above 50%. The truth is, you're looking at like a 25% chance of ending the game towards that fixed ending. But rolls of 20% over the course of a decade or something, you're almost certainly going to end the game there. So I don't think it's terrible that it has the fixed ending. It does feel like there are things that are hard to reach, though, like Alpha Centauri with a crewed ship. How am I going to get there? Seriously. You know, the distance, let's say I'm coming out of here, is basically, say 35 points, but at least 30 points, and we're at 0.4, which means it's going to take more than a decade to get there. It's definitely worth it. It's a lot of points, but it's also a crewed ship that you're sending out for a long time to make that exploration. It doesn't have to be your best one, though. You got a fair chance of finding stuff here. You could send a cheap ship, like Asia has kind of a cheap one that they're still using, I think. Might be this one. Yeah. That could go out there, assuming I have that, you know, long sleep ship. Okay, going up.